Russia has a big problem, has had this problem for 23 years now. The problem has been forced onto the Russians, has been placed upon them. The problem has been causing multiple problems for the neighbors of Russia and for the economy of Russia. For the last 2.5 years, this problem has caused the catastrophic events in Ukraine and has, for the most part, destroyed Russia's future. This problem is called Vladimir Putin. Today, I want to take a look inside Vladimir Putin's head. Perhaps we can learn a thing or two today. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. No propaganda, BS or lies here, only truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions because I'm a human being after all. Today's live stream will consist of two parts, the message about Vladimir Putin and the prayer at the end as usual. Today's live stream has been inspired by quite a few comments I've recently received in the live stream chats, in the comments after the live stream chats, and many suggest things about Vladimir Putin that kind of, well, off. Things that show me that people make in the comments that show me that they don't understand true effects of what's going on. Comments like, for example, oh, Vladimir Putin doesn't understand what he's doing to Ukraine. Oh, Vladimir Putin is making a big mistake, but he's uninformed. Only if he knew what's happening to Russian people, he'd probably act in different way, and so forth. The comments show me that many people misunderstand Vladimir Putin completely. The thing is, most people are too decent to understand what drives Russian president. They judge by their standards and by their values. And I think that's a mistake. To understand Vladimir Putin, we gotta think like Vladimir Putin. Before we jump into his head, let's learn of who he is and where he is coming from, the background, and that's very important. By their state. So, Vladimir Putin's life can be divided into three major periods: the spy, the bureaucrat, the president. And that's, of course, how I call them. Some might argue that the latest stage can also be divided into the substages, say the president, the dictator, the invader. But for the simplicity's sake, it's the spy, the bureaucrat, and the president. Putin's first stage is fairly easy to understand, first part of his life. He was recruited into the KGB while studying at the university. A very common way to get into the KGB back then. He graduated in 1975, and little is known of what Vladimir Putin was doing for 10 years. Those tiny bits in pieces that we have, they tell us that he served in the KGB's counterintelligence and studied in various high-ranked programs. They made him a spy. He came to the East Germany in 1985 as a spy and served there for 5 years. I think Putin's KGB period was fairly common for all mid-range officers and uneventful. Putin was never a star spy. He was never a star KGB officer. He didn't have much popularity. He didn't have much success. He didn't have much support. He was brought into the KGB off the street, so to speak. He didn't succeed in his work, and he was sent home to the USSR early, only after 5 years. The key point here, Putin was recruited into the KGB. Recruited. And that was how things worked back then. You couldn't go in and join KGB by yourself. First, you got noticed, usually when you're a freshman. Then they monitored you for 2 years. Every university had a special department of the KGB people monitoring students. And then, after a couple years, they would get together and decide whether you fit or not. And there was not a sole decision by someone, but it was a decision made by a group. And if you were okayed, green-lighted, then they made you an offer, and you couldn't refuse that offer. Personal story. Was never in KGB, obviously. But I met a guy a long time ago who served in the USSR in the KGB. I think he joined in the 70s, and when I met him, he was long retired, and he retired in like 1992. So he told me the story how he got in. The same thing, freshman, he got noticed for a couple of years. They were following him, monitoring him. Then they made the decision behind his back that he was fit to join the KGB. And he was called in at special office, and basically he was given an offer. He was given a few days to think. He came back and he declined the offer. He said, no, I don't want to join the KGB. And a fella who made him the offer, he said that he was free to decline. He was free to make any choice he wanted. But in case he declined, then he'd be expelled from the university. He would not be allowed to enter any other university, and he would be having petty jobs for the rest of his life. So basically, that was offer that no one could refuse. Okay, so basically blackmails. And Putin, I'm pretty sure that he was made the same kind of offer. Now, Vladimir Putin did not take any active steps. He didn't show initiative. He was recruited and made the KGB officer. And then he simply started following usual career steps. He didn't even have to invent them. They were there for him just to serve. Now, that was the KGB, the spy period. The bureaucrat period lasted for 10 years, from 1990 to 2000. Vladimir Putin returned to the USSR and from the East Germany. The USSR was falling apart, and he resigned from the KGB. Then he held a few positions in St. Petersburg. He was a squire of the mayor, Anatoly Sobchak, and simultaneously he held the position of the chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations of St. Petersburg City Hall. In 1996, Putin, his boss, Sobchak, lost the elections, and everyone was fired, and Putin was fired also. So he moved to Moscow and made a career in the office of the president of Russia. He held various positions, including the deputy chief of staff of Boris Yeltsin, the head of the KGB, and the prime minister of Russia. The key point here is Putin was invited to serve by Sobchak. He was invited to move to Moscow. He was invited by Kudrin, placed into the position, into the office of the president Boris Yeltsin, into the job. He was invited. He was pulled away from St. Petersburg to Moscow. Now, the next stage is the presidency. It's lasted for 23 years now. I won't talk much about this stage, about Putin, the president. What's more interesting is how he became the president of Russia. And I've got to give it to Putin. He is very consistent. He was placed into jobs by others all his life. And he was made the president by others too. That's consistency, He was made the president by Boris Yeltsin's family and the oligarchs close to Boris Yeltsin and his daughter. And that was known back then as the family. I actually made a dedicated live stream on explaining what is the family, what is the corporation in Russia. I explored it in details. I'm going to put a link right here. Check it out. It's worth taking a look. So Boris Yeltsin resigned on the last day of 1999, and Vladimir Putin automatically became the interim president and easily won the presidential election as the incumbent president. So it's safe to say that he was made Russian president. And he followed the career path, so to speak, just like he did in the KGB. Now, notice that all three periods in life of Vladimir Putin have something in common. And that's crucial to understand what's in his head, which I'm going to discuss at the end. Number one, Vladimir was picked by others and placed into positions at every stage of his life. He was given the jobs by others. He never persuaded the jobs, never competed for the jobs, never had passion for the jobs. He was pushed forward, was pulled, promoted, advanced by others. It was always the others who were deciding for Putin. And he followed obediently and diligently. Number two, Vladimir was never leading. He was following. He was never the star. Rather, on the contrary, he was the supporting. He had always had the supporting role. He was supporting the stars, assisting the stars. He was in the shadows of the stars. He was always invisible, unknown. The stars like, Colonel Lazar Matveyev, the head of the Soviet intelligence group in East Germany, the chief representative of the KGB in the East Germany, who picked Putin for this position of the spy in the office in the East Germany, and who Putin worked directly under. Now that guy was the star, the KGB star. Anatoly Sobchak, the first mayor of St. Petersburg, the democratic leader, the charismatic guy, the popular politician who picked Putin to work in the city hall and assisting him, and whose squire Putin was. Now Sobchak was the star, the political star. Boris Yeltsin, Russia's first president, who authorized Putin to work under him and later made Vladimir Putin Russian president. Now Boris Yeltsin was the political star, the world star. Boris Yeltsin was larger than life. Vladimir Putin always lurked in the shadows of his bosses, the stars. Even being the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin is many things, like the president, the cult figure for many Russians, the creator of the vertical of power, the very top, the chief of the vertical of power, the very known person in Russia and in the world. He even made a person of the year a couple times, the Times Person of the Year. But he's still not the star. It's the personal quality that makes people stars that he lacks. And number three, Vladimir never shone at his jobs. He did what he was expected, what people expected of him. Perhaps he did a little less, perhaps a little more, but he never overachieved. He never put things in turbo. He was always a workhorse. That's it. Now, enough of his past. We have enough information now to talk of what's inside Vladimir Putin's head now. This is where it gets interesting. Oh, before I jump there, I would like once again to thank you, those of you who bought me coffees at buymecoffee.com. Folks, your support shows me that you value my work highly, and please just know that it is very inspirational and gives me energy to move forward. It shows that you care, and I like that very much. So thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, since we start talking about what's inside Putin's head, a quick disclaimer here. I've never met Vladimir Putin. All I'm going to say now is my opinion only. Before, I was giving you facts about Putin. Everyone can get them from the open sources. Now, my opinion only, or my opinions. As I understand things using common sense and logic, okay? So, Vladimir Putin is an unusual president. Presidents are usually very passionate, energetic, overachieving leaders. Leaders. They lead people. They desire to be on top. They have fire burning in them and they show it to everyone. They make decisions for themselves and for many others. They fight. They compete, they don't give up, they take responsibility, they shine. Vladimir Putin has never been the leader. He's been following. And that has influenced his presidency a great deal. Putin simply hasn't been caught to be the president. Instead, he had a very extensive experience of working in the KGB and surviving in the KGB, because the KGB is a very special organization. Well, was a very special organization, you know. And then he mastered that well, although he lasted there for 15 years. That's not that long, by the way. So he had extensive experience in the KGB following the others. Those who kept giving him jobs, those who kept on promoting him, he was following. Understand? Now, I think Putin was, when Putin was made the president of Russia, and that's my pure speculation, I don't know, I'm just thinking that. I think that at first he felt scared and uncomfortable. He felt out of his place. It was a completely new role for him, okay? New shoes to fill, and those shoes were much larger size than his feet. But also, don't forget that Vladimir Putin is smart. I give him credit. He clearly lacks certain personal traits required for a democratic politician, but he is smart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made it to the KGB, and through the KGB, he wouldn't have been sent to be a spy outside of the USSR. Very smart and very sly. So he started using his knowledge. Again, that's my speculation, but I'm trying to apply logic and common sense. And by the way, please let me know if you agree with me or not. You find me logical, or you think that something's off. Let me know down below in the comments. So he started using his knowledge, received in various KGB schools, and he started using his brain, and he has the brain, you know. He has started building his own world the way that he knew. First, it was his team. He brought to Moscow everyone who he knew and he worked with in the city hall in St. Petersburg back few years prior, his colleagues and friends. And he brought those old KGB friends he served with. That's the first thing you do. You try to, when you go into a corporation, you land a certain position, usually on top, you start hiring your own people loyal to you, that you can work with, who you understand, you know, you have the same goals, you're on the same page, that type of thing. So those people have become the foundation of Putin's vertical of power. Surrounded by his people, I think that after some time, he stopped feeling that scared and uncomfortable. He didn't feel that any longer. Moreover, bit by bit, he started feeling empowered more and more. He was placing people, loyal to him personally, to country's key position is, and with every single person, I think he felt more and more power. A very interesting point to understand here is Putin started to change somewhere along that time, in the beginning of his reign. Power is a temptation. The more power you get, the more you desire, and the more it changes you. Now, if a country has a well thought out system of checks and balances, for example, just like the United States of America, there's no one gets absolute power, and no one can get absolute power, even if wanted to. Even no one can even get a shot at the absolute power. So all politicians, presidents, senators, congressmen, the ministers, or whatever, they know their boundaries and they act accordingly. But if one thinks that he has ability to tailor entire power system of a country to his wishes, for example, just like Russia, he starts pushing more and more. It's like saying, that saying, oh, he's tasted the blood. And Putin did that. More and more and more. Now, get this. 8 years. 4 and 4. Then placing Medvedev to wait 4 years and calling the shots behind his back. Then 4 more years turning into 5. They created, into 6. They created a federal law that prolonged presidency from 4 to 6 years. Then annexing Crimea and starting the unrest in Donbass. Then another 6 years. Then changing the constitution to allow to nullify all the previous years and to allow 2 more terms, 12 more years. Then starting the war with Ukraine, then getting elected, you can call it that way, whatever, for another 6 years. Whew. I think the farther he went, he changed more and more. But even before all that, even before the change, in the very beginning, you know what? He could care less. He didn't promise Russians anything. He never said anything. He didn't say, let's make Russia great again. He never said, hey, let's bring happiness to Russian people. Let's make them happy. He never said, let's make the country shine. Let's do this. He never promised anything. He was given the job. And by the way, I covered all those news, quite a few of them, in my live streams. And now I cover 9 news every day. I carefully select 9 news that I find important. And I post them with my commentaries and analysis for patrons at patreon.com. So if you have access to Patreon, then you'll be informed of everything that you wanted to know about Russia, but were afraid to ask. So become patron at patreon.com and get the access to the news that matter. After the end of the stream, I'm going to put the link down below in the description. So Putin has become what he is now. And knowing that we can safely assume that what's inside Putin's head now is completely different from what many people think. He's been in the possession of absolute power for so long that all he wants now is to have his power, his precious his absolute power, to keep it for as long as possible, to hang in to that sweet, I don't even know how to call it, sweet thing for as long as possible. And that is his only desire. That is all he thinks about. I think before the war, it was simply his desire for power. The power had changed him before, and then the more he had it, the more he wanted it. It was his drive, power. But now, after the start of the war, it is his physical surviving. He's gone too far in his quest for absolute power. He cannot simply resign and step away. There's no way back for Vladimir Putin. He could resign. He could step away before the war, but not anymore. He stepped on so many heads. So many people died as direct result of his orders. We all know that. Everyone knows that. He's destroyed so many lives. He's razed cities. He's annexed lands. He's gone too far. And he could care less about anything or anyone that doesn't help him to hang on to his power. He could care less about, Russian people, mobilization, annexed lands, anything, just anything. He keeps on saying that, hey, Russia will keep all those lands. It's annexed from Ukraine. But I think that if he was offered a deal where he could give those lands back and bring the Russian troops, back to Russia, and simultaneously keep his power to stop the war that way, he would jump onto the opportunity. He could care less about the lands. He could care less about the troops. It's just he can't do that because they won't let him get away with that in Russia. Okay, that's why he keeps on pushing forward. That's why he keeps on escalating. That's all he can do. He pays attention and reacts on things and issues that have a potential to become threat for him. That's all he cares about. Does he know what's really going on in Russia? I bet. Does he know how many people have been killed on both sides? I bet. Does he know the catastrophic state of Russian economy? I bet. Does he know how many cities he razed in Ukraine? I bet he does. It's just he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Just one thing inside of his head. Egotistical, selfish thoughts of how to hang on to his power a bit longer. 1 month longer. 1 week longer. 1 day longer. 1 hour longer. My precious is here and now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. Russian economy is falling apart. Hey, guess what? That's going to happen next year. That's going to happen in 6 months. I don't care. I need what's here and now. And I could care less what will happen with everything and everyone else. Because it'll happen tomorrow. And I need my precious now. I need to keep hanging on now. I think that Vladimir Putin thinks just like a small man who always followed others that he is. He doesn't think like a true leader. He doesn't think public good. He doesn't think for the people. He's simply not cut for that job. He's doing what he does best. Building a large KGB and turning Russia into what some call the USSR 2.0, and I call into the country-sized gulag. And he has a perfect team, the vertical of power, that he has built and has motivated them to help him to turn the entire country into gulag. And that's pretty much what he thinks. He thinks of keep on hanging on. And let me tell you, this is a very sad state of affairs for Russia now. This is the demise, because this president, this system, political system, this situation just cannot last for much longer. It's bound to break. Now, everyone, I would like to invite to pray with me. Please do. Let's do it now. Thank you. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for the life that you have given us. Thank you for the week you have given us. Thank you for the food you've placed on our tables and roofs you've given us over our heads. Thank you for the people who we love and who love us, that you surround us with. Please, dear Lord, give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads safe and peaceful. Give us wisdom to raise our children the way that when they grow up, they become better people than us. They will make this world a better place and will never fight in any wars, just love each other. For now, please keep our children safe and healthy. Dear Lord, please help Ukraine, stop the bloodshed. The country needs peace desperately, and the people have suffered so much. Please help every single Ukrainian affected by this terrible tragedy. Answer their prayers and make their wishes come true. Reach out and touch the hearts of those capable of making decision to stop the bloodshed, and have them make that decision. Dear Lord, please help my country, Russia, assemble your strongest angels with sharpest swords into an army led by Saint Michael, and send it to the earth to liberate my country from the demons who we know by their names and by their faces. Please send Russia angels so they help good Russians to run the country, make it peaceful, loving and respecting. Please help everyone who's traveling, send them safe travels. Who is in danger of any kind, send safety. Please help those who are helping Ukrainians. Help those Ukrainians who are under threat of Russian attacks right now, send them safety. Please help everyone who's seeking for asylum of any kind. Please help single mothers who are struggling, raising their children, trying to make their ends meet. Send them help, send angels to watch over them, and please help all those who are not feeling well, hungry, cold, addicted, jobless, homeless, depressed, losing their faith, not feeling good about themselves, not feeling good about their lives, betrayed, feeling lonely and alone in this world, and crying. Please help everyone in need. Thank you so much, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Folks, now thank you so much for giving me a chance to deliver this message and listening to my message. Thank you for praying with me, and please check out the weekly news update I make every week. I call it Crazy News Update. This one I made last Friday, and I think you're gonna love it. I'm gonna put a link right over here.